They hit big shots. Luka, Clippers have no identity.
What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Sunday, October 10th, 2021. I am your host, Monte Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. I want to thank everyone for watching last week. We had 34 states tune in across the country to the full Monte Sports Show. You can follow me on all sorts of social media now on Facebook, Monte Perez, Twitter, Monte JP231, on TikTok, Monte Perez 231, Instagram, Monte Perez 2. I try to keep them all same so it's easy to find me, or just Google the Sports Whisperer. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Love the comments, love the feedbacks. We're getting a lot of people who don't catch the show live, but they watch it during the week. So I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for making the full Monte Sports Show part of your Sunday. Again, really appreciate the feedback during the week. If you like this show, if you like sports and comedy, there's two things to do. You want to help us out? Give us the thumbs up for this particular episode. And of course, subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. It's amazing. We are getting so many people watching the shows all over the Nuts and Bolts Sports Network, but we don't have a lot of subscribers. We need for you to just, tell a friend, tell a family member, and let's get those subscriber numbers up. Huge day in college football yesterday. I will have my top 5 things we learned about college football. Maybe one of the greatest days in the history of college football, from the Oklahoma Red River Showdown game with Texas, Alabama losing, Michigan was in a battle with Nebraska, and of course Iowa. Been on Iowa and Kurt Ferenz for about 3 or 4 years now, telling people he's the best coach in the country that no one talks about. Doesn't get the 5-star recruits that a Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama gets, but the guy just wins. He develops his players, sends a ton of players to the pros. George Kittle, Noah Fant, Christian Hawkinson. It's like a tight end factory in Iowa. Huge win over Penn State yesterday. All right, we have the best guests all across the country. This week is no exception. We're going to have Chris Roseglue join us. He's going to talk Saints and the Knicks. We're also going to have Daniel Goodwin III. He's going to join us to talk about the Bears and the Chicago Bulls. And we're going to get into a little bit, I'm watching my Mets with Javier Baez. I'm watching the postseason. All we're seeing all over the place is former Chicago Cubs contributing to playoff teams. And then Rico Show Me the Money Graziano will join us to talk fantasy football and tell you what games to bet on. Rico has 3 winning weeks, 1 losing week. He's winning people money again, so cheers to him. Great job by Rico. But we start each show like we do every week with the good, the bad, and the funny. The good, the bad, and the funny. So let's start with the good. I am very, very happy after surprising news that linebacker Jalen Smith would be cut. Questions began to swirl. Where would he end up? And where does Jalen Smith go? He ends up with my Packers. Early Thursday morning, Smith finalized his new deal for a 1-year contract with the Green Bay Packers. He's going to, per the NFL Network, $770,000. That's he'll make for this season, but he will make all of his $7.2 million from Dallas. He will make all of his $7.2 million from Dallas. Listen, a lot of problems right now with the Packers. They lost their defensive back. We don't know when he's going to return. They obviously lost Smith earlier during the season. He's going to be out for another couple of weeks. So getting someone with speed who could maybe, pass rush, tackle guys in the backfield for a loss is a great addition for the Packers. I know I watched some film on him this week, and he doesn't look like he has the same explosiveness. But one thing this guy does is he's got a motor that never stops. He's got a motor that never stops. So I really like this acquisition. You never see Green Bay get involved mid-season, so this is a good deal for them. So that's the good. Now let's get back to the bad because we go from the good, the bad to the funny. 18 NBA players, including former Celtic player Glenn Big Baby Davis, have been arrested and charged with defrauding the NBA's health and welfare benefit plan out of $4 million. Terrence Williams, the 11th overall pick in 2009 by the then New Jersey Nets, was named as the alleged ringleader of the scheme, according to the indictment. Those false claims totaled about 3.9 million, and players received about 2.5 million from fraudulent claims. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but one time Kevin Garnett ripped into Big Baby Davis on the bench. And Big Baby Davis, there's video of this, was actually crying on the bench. He was visibly upset and crying. If he thinks that getting yelled by Kevin Garnett and he's not mentally tough enough to take that, what's going to happen when someone in prison confronts him? If you're crying on an NBA bench, what are you going to do when you're in prison? Terrible job. You know, I don't understand what's happening across this country. It always used to be, hey, you got to help your neighbor. You have to help your neighbor. Now it's like, F your neighbor, and while you're effing your neighbor, mock them, ridicule them, steal from them. What are we doing here? The NBA, you're stealing from your own players. What are you guys doing here? Terrible job. They should all be punished to the fullest extent of the law, no exceptions. Okay, so the good, the bad, and now the funny. Again, we try to break away from Florida. I've lived in Florida for 3 years, and the craziness that goes on here, you will not believe it. You will not believe it. So, a Florida man, of course, Florida, I trade in a vehicle from the same dealership he stole the car from 2 nights before. Lake City police responded to a report of a stolen vehicle at a Chrysler Dodge dealership on Monday. Employees told the officer that the man was trying to trade in his vehicle for a new one, but upon checking the VIN number, they found that the vehicle was stolen from the dealership just a few days earlier. The man admitted to the police that he stole the vehicle and was arrested on charges of grand theft of a motor vehicle and criminal mischief. When asked why he brought the same car back to the dealership that he stole from, he said, and I quote, "I didn't want to waste the gas. The other dealership's 19 miles away." I mean, come on, dude. Come on. By the way, are people paying attention to the story, or are you having a flashback to how good Grand Theft Auto was as a video game? One of the greatest games ever. But it's so funny. I mean, here in Florida, the guy, he said he didn't want to waste the gas. Remember this. George Carlin once said, okay, think about how stupid the average American is. 50% are dumber than them because they're just average. This guy stole a vehicle from the dealership, would have gotten away with it, but brought it back to try to trade it in, make money, and have them give him a new car. Think about how dumb that guy is. George Carlin was right on the money. I was just telling my sister, I said, you know, you have all these anti-vaxxers now who they can't help their kids with their 6th grade homework, but all of a sudden they're experts on diseases. Like, I mean, come on, dude. What are you doing? By the way, Grand Theft Auto. Quality, quality, quality. All right. So we do this every week. We break down the games in the NFL. I have not been including my Thursday night games in my total. And I don't know why. I make videos on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok predicting the games, and I am 5-0 on Thursday night. I am 5-0 on Thursday night. By the way, can we just talk about the Thursday night game? So Geno Smith comes in for an injured Russell Wilson, and everyone's going crazy. They're like, oh, look at Geno. He led him to a touchdown. Geno Smith's in rhythm. Geno Smith's doing great. What did I do? I tweeted out, wait for it. Geno Smith's DNA is going to come out. I've seen this with the Jets. I've seen this with the Giants. There was a reason Geno Smith hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since 2007. So what happens at the end of the game? Geno Smith throws an interception. And I just retweeted what I tweeted, and I said, I told you all. And what happens? The haters come out. Oh, the wide receiver fell. It was pass interference. The refs wanted to give the game to the Rams. Then one guy said, hey, dumbass, if you judge interceptions by just the interceptions, you know nothing about football. What? What? In the record books, Brett Favre has the most interceptions in the history of the NFL. We don't have asterisks by that. We don't say the receiver ran the wrong route. We don't say the ref missed a pass interference penalty. I said Geno Smith was going to throw an interception, and he did. I don't give a rat's ass if it hit off a helmet, if a bird came down and hit it. He threw an interception. Those are facts. Stop making excuses for your team's failures. Stop talking about, oh, the refs blew it, or the refs wanted this person to win, or Pete Carroll. Like, stop. There used to be a thing. Michael Jordan once said, I've missed over 600 shots when we were tied. I failed and failed and failed, and that's why I won. I'm so tired of guys, because I get texts from my friends, oh, the refs are blowing this one. The refs, stop making excuses. Whether it's losing an election or losing a football game, you lose, you admit you lost. That's the great thing about sports. You ever see the hockey playoffs? After the playoff game, these guys beat the hell out of each other for 7 games. They lose. They go to the middle of the ice, and they shake each other's hands. Stop making excuses for your teams. Your team loses. That's it. There's no conspiracy. The refs aren't cheating. Stop it. Stop it. Okay? Whether you lose an election or lose a football game, move on, get better, improve. All right. So I am 33-19. Let's get right to the Jet game. Listen, I'm telling you right now, the average. First of all, I don't know why the hell they're having this game in London. Okay, I don't know why they're having this game in London. The Jets and the Falcons are both terrible. They're terrible. And here's the funny thing about this: the Falcons are winning 20-3. Did anyone think they weren't going to win this game? Rookie quarterbacks are 0-4 in London. 0-4 in London, and the average score in those 4 games, the rookie quarterback lost by 78 total points. Okay, so this game, I had the Falcons winning this. This is a no-brainer. Falcons up 20-3. Jets are terrible. Rookie quarterbacks are terrible in London. Okay, let's move to the next game. We got the Tampa Bay Bucks. Okay, 3-1 at 1-3 Bucks at the 3-1 Dolphins. Look at that. I put this picture up because I think these are the 2 coolest helmets in the NFL. Are you ready for this stat? Tom Brady has 12 career losses against Miami. 12. That is double the amount of losses he has for any other team. Listen, everyone, including myself, thought that the Dolphins would be a legitimate 10-11 team win this year, but I got to be honest with you. Their draft picks have not panned out. Tua can't stay healthy. Look for Jalen Waddle and their tight end to have a good game. I think this game is close, but I think the Bucks pull away at the end, 30-20. Again, Tom Brady losing 12 games to Miami. That's double more than any team he's lost against. Okay, next game up. The 0-4 Lions at the 1-3 Vikings. The Vikings could easily be 4-0. I was all over the Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell in his press conference when he said his team's going to bite kneecaps. He's basically Rex Ryan, but he works out. The only difference is that's the only difference. He's in shape. This guy just wants to talk trash. He'd be good as a WWE announcer, not a football coach. His team is terrible. The Vikings have won 7 straight against Detroit. Make it 8. Vikings win 33-20. 1-3 Patriots at the 1-3 Texans. Rookie QBs are 1-10 against New England since 2014. The Patriots got rid of Stephon Gilmore. Belichick must be seething in his mouth to go against some team after he lost to the Tampa Bay Bucks and Tom Brady on national TV. By the way, Brandon Cooks is having a very good year. I have Brandon Cooks on my fantasy football team. He's the only real offensive threat Houston has. I'm going to take the Patriots here in a game closer than most people suggest. I'm going to go 24-20. Again, rookie quarterbacks against Bill Belichick are 1-10 since 2014. 1-10. All right, my Green Bay Packers go up against the Bengals. Yeah, the Bengals are 3-1. 3-1. Labeled as the most useless stat of the week, but I'm throwing it out there. Cincy has won 3 out of the last 4 games against Green Bay. These teams rarely play each other. It's a useless stat. Why am I throwing it out there? Just trying to be entertaining. These teams don't play often. Have you watched Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is having the best time I've ever seen him have. He's joking around on the sidelines. He's laughing on the sidelines. He's talking to Mike Tomlin, having a good time. Aaron Rodgers is so relaxed after all the tension and friction this offseason. It's like he feels no pressure. He's just going, even when he gets sacked, he's laughing. Joe Burrow is very good. Joe Burrow is very good. I really think that Joe Burrow over the next 5 years is going to be the best quarterback in that division. No disrespect to Lamar Jackson. Listen, we talked about the Packers signing Jalen Smith. We talked about Javier Alexander, their Pro Bowl defensive back's going to be out. Look for the Bengals to throw a lot here. I'm taking the Packers in a close game, 31-26. 31-26. All right, the 1-3 Eagles versus my sleeper team, the 3-1 Panthers. Jalen Hurts and Sam Darnold are both ranked in the top 10 combined pass and rushing yards this season. The Eagles play hard, but for some reason, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. Stephon Gilmore is loving life now that he left New England, and now he's in Carolina. Christian McCaffrey, I think they're going to, they're trying to rush this guy back too early, and this is him. He wants to play. I don't know if he does. Either if he does or he doesn't matter. Panthers win this 27-24. 27-24. Okay, the Titans play the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Titans are 2-2. The Jags are 0-4. Listen, this game is at 1 p.m. And that's good news for Urban Meyer because happy hour at the Gaza Strip Club in Jacksonville, happy hour doesn't start till 6 p.m. on Sundays. So he's going to have plenty of time after the game to do the press conferences, go to the strip club, get a couple of cocktails, some wings, and then get a lap dance. Okay. That's my shot at Urban Meyer. And for all you people say, oh, Monte, you've never been to a strip club. I haven't been to a strip club in 15 years. I stopped going to strip clubs. I dated this woman who was a bartender there, and the amount of hatred they have towards men, especially married men, and rightly so, these married men are saying, hey, come away with me this weekend. My wife's going out of town. So that's good news. The strip bar in Jacksonville, happy hours at 6 for Urban Meyer, so he won't miss the opening of that. Take Derrick Henry here all day. Getting the ball early and often. He's averaging over 100 yards per rush per game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has 11 rushing TDs in 10 games. Trevor Lawrence should play well, but the Titans, coming off a bad loss to the Jets, win this one 36-22. 1-3 Cowboys. 1-3 Cowboys at 1-3 Giants at the 3-1 Cowboys. I knew that I read that wrong. Dallas has won 7 out of 8 games against the Giants. This rivalry has been lopsided over the past few years. I keep hearing Daniel Jones is good. Well, not record-wise. He sucks. Listen, This Dallas offense at home could be the best offense in the league at home. At home, they could be the best offense in the league. I'm taking the Cowboys here, 37-29. For all you Giant fans who have been criticizing me all year because I am not high on the Giants, go out and win a game on the road. Go out and beat Dallas Cowboys, and let's see if we could talk then. Because right now, this team is awful. And I don't want to hear they're in every game. You are what your record is. They're 1-4, and the Cowboys have won 7 out of 8. The rivalry is not there. Dallas is dominating this team, and they will today again. Okay, we have the 4-0 Cardinals hosting the 2-2 San Francisco 49ers. The Cardinals are the only undefeated team in the NFL. Kyler Murray. Listen, I have Justin Herbert winning the MVP, but Kyler Murray has been phenomenal. Now, George Kittle, okay, he's not going to play for the next few weeks. This guy can't stay healthy. Jimmy G's not playing. So it's going to be Trey Lance versus Kyler Murray. Now, I would not be surprised if Trey Lance rushes for 50 to 70 yards. I would not be surprised if Kyler Murray rushes for 50, 70 yards. I had Trey Lance as my number 2 quarterback coming out of the NFL behind Trevor Lawrence. I just think that this San Francisco 49er team is not right. And I talked about the Giants earlier, how let's relax on how good they are. And Joe Judge and Daniel Jones, you are what your record is. Kyle Shanahan has had 1 winning season in San Francisco. So let's stop talking about how much of a genius he is. Okay? He now has Trey Lance. Let's see if he plays to his strength. But I'm taking the Cardinals here in a close game, 30-27. 30-27. The Colts play the Ravens Monday night. I will preview that tomorrow night with Brad Ward and A. Marie. We do the Monday night special at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We break down every game in the NFL, and we also preview the Monday night game, so you want to check that out. But I will say this, Lamar Jackson, 7-0, only QB since 1970 with a 5-0 in October. Lamar Jackson has not lost. He's 7-0. First QB since 1970 with 5 starts and 0 losses in October. So definitely want to check out that game. We're going to have a great game on Sunday night tonight with the Kansas City Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to have a great game on Monday night as well. And there you have it. Again, I am 33-19 picking games. So my goal is to pick 80%. 80%. That's my goal. Last year, I was 74%. So hopefully I'll reach that. And again, I break those games down in like 5-6 minutes, just so if you don't bet, you have a general idea of what to look for. Because a lot of people watch my show. They're not gamblers, but they watch a lot of games. And I just give them, quick tips. So before we get Chris Roseviglu on, let's check out the, Greg is calling for the Niners to shock the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, listen, 7 out of 8. Cowboys have dominated. Yeah, a terrible loss for Seattle. You hate to see people go down. So Russell Wilson's been healthy most of his career. It's gonna be the Geno Smith show, and that's not gonna be pretty. Trust me, I've seen enough of that in New York. All right, let's bring on Chris Roseviglu. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing well, Monte. How are you?
I'm doing good, Chris. Quick question yesterday. I'm watching the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I'm watching college football games yesterday. It was the best college football day I've seen in, 15 years of loving college football.
Yeah, no, it was. There were so many good games. It all started, honestly, with the Red River Showdown. I think that's what kind of just kicked everything off, with Texas going up big and then blowing that lead with Caleb Williams. By the way, that's a story that's going to linger for the next couple of weeks. So that was fun. And then, like you said, Iowa, Penn State, that's more of that defensive style battle. I kind of wish Sean Clifford didn't get injured, though. I think it would have made the game even better because Penn State's backup struggled. But you also got Bama losing, which was big. You had a shootout between Ole Miss and Arkansas, which was really fun. So if anyone missed that, they missed out, because that might have been one of the most fun games of the day. And then you even have some other stories, like even the games that weren't as entertaining, Monty, like an LSU Kentucky. Well, LSU dropping that game, I think we're about another loss away from Ed O getting fired. So I think this was just an amazing Saturday. So many storylines to follow.
100% with that. And I tweeted out before the game, I said, let's be honest here. Kentucky has the best offense in the country that no one knows about. This team offensively is pretty scary. And going back to the Red River Showdown, I posted a video on TikTok where the so-called backup for Oklahoma comes in. He throws a touchdown, and I put, "Is this the end of Is this the end of Ritter in Oklahoma?" And within an hour, I got 8,000 views, and all Oklahoma fans saying yes. So, I mean, this guy was hyped as the Heisman. What happened?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues. Well, here's the thing for Spencer Rattler that really bothers me. The thing that he wasn't good at last year was he was too loose with the football. And ironically enough, where it all really culminated was last year's game against Texas. He was benched for a little bit. Then they put him back in, obviously, because their backup, I think at the time was Mordecai, who is not on the level that a guy like Caleb Williams is. So it was kind of a really short leash, but then they put Rattler back in, and then Spencer Rattler kind of just figured it out and finished the season strong. And everyone just kind of came into this year talking about how, well, the arm talent's great and he could spin it. And don't get me wrong, Monte, he really can spin it. He's got a great arm. He can throw it from different angles, but that doesn't matter if the mental process of things isn't great in terms of decision-making, in terms of when to not make too much of an error. Like yesterday, there's a point where he's running the football and just get down. You're not going to get much yardage out of this. And instead he tries to do too much, fumbles. It's a costly fumble. He has too many picks where he's trying to do too much with the football and just take what the defense is giving you, and he refuses to do so. And I think there's also another side of it that I kind of spoke about with my coworkers, and it's the leadership side. And he could change because they're all still young and they can mold into what they're going to be in a couple of years from now. But Spencer Rattler right now isn't a great leader, and you kind of see that when he's on the field, there isn't that much energy between that Oklahoma offense. Caleb Williams comes in, and as soon as he starts doing good, guys are feeding off that energy. Guys are getting really excited. And when he had his first touchdown, that whole sideline just lit up completely. And that just makes you wonder, you know?
That 4th-and-1 run,
yeah,
where he just broke. I mean, it looked like they weren't going to get it, and he was going to for a loss, and then he runs. And I said Kyle Rittenhouse, that's the guy who went out and shot the people on Black Lives Matter, Spencer Rattler. So just a little mental note: don't check your phone news-wise before you go on the air, because I was reading an article about him. Obviously, I meant Spencer Rattler, but again, Rattler's super talented. But how do you? Here's what I said. I was watching the game. Here's what I said: how do you go if you're Lincoln Riley from removing your quarterback in the biggest game of the year? Oklahoma and Texas fans don't care what you do. You got to win that game. You bench him. The backup comes in and plays amazing. And then I was watching the game, and everyone's like, why is Spencer Rattler coming in on the 2-point conversion? Well, probably because they practiced that play 1,000 times to Stoops, the wide receiver. And so they felt confident because they needed 2-point conversion there. But how do you go back to Spencer Rattler when your backup played better? People have been talking about this kid as the next great quarterback there. And one thing I don't like, the Lincoln Riley's the quarterback whisperer. Spencer Rattler has not gotten better from last year to this year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. But you know what, Monty? I would say that's more of a Spencer Rattler problem, because if we think about it, just look at the success that Lincoln Riley's had. Baker obviously looked great, becomes a number 1 pick. Kyler looks great, becomes a number 1 pick. Jalen Hurts kind of ascended into a better passer once he got to Oklahoma compared to what he was at Bama. And then now, I agree, Spencer Rattler hasn't gotten better, and I think that's kind of the issue, because like I said before, the mistakes he was making last year, he's making this year, and he can't do that. And I do think Lincoln Riley wasn't going to say it. He didn't say it after the game, said he didn't make up his mind as to who'll be his quarterback. I think they have to go Caleb Williams for a plethora of reasons. One, it just seems like the defense and the offense together, this team just collectively gets around him, which they don't do with Spencer, which raises flags about his leadership qualities, which I think aren't there. And I think, too, like you said, your goal when you're Oklahoma this year, you have to make the playoff. And right now, you are fortunate enough to be 6-0 when you've blown so many leads and you've basically been flirting with an L for the last couple of weeks. They managed to stay undefeated. I think Caleb Williams gives them the best chance. I would go as far to say, which is funny enough, a lot of people talk about Rattler's arm talent and how great it is, and it is. Williams made a throw yesterday to Mims that was pretty impressive. I mean, it's on the run. He's throwing to his right, just 45 yards down the field on a rope. He does have that rushing ability to him, and I think that the beauty of Caleb Williams that I would love to see Oklahoma using more is he's a true freshman who didn't get a play last year because of COVID. So
right, which is insane.
Raw.
Which is insane. That throw he made in the on the touchdown, he threw it to the outside shoulder, so it was either going out of bounds or he caught it. That's my whole point. And I wasn't attacking Lincoln Riley. I agree with you. I was attacking the quarterback because he has not. Everyone improves under Lincoln Riley. He hasn't.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that, Monty. And I will say this. I tweeted about it yesterday, and I'll say it again. If it goes down this path, when will we ever see again where a guy who a lot of people said, oh, he might be the number one pick next year, all of a sudden you fast forward a couple months from now and he's in the transfer portal? If it goes down that way, I just think it would be an insane storyline.
I tweeted out he transfers in 3, 2, 1. Listen, but on the flip side, right? You saw the Texas quarterback. He sat for 2 years. He could have transferred. He did it. He played a hell of a game. And so there's something to be said about, look at Mac Jones. Mac Jones sat for 2 or 3 years, starts 1 year, has a phenomenal year, wins the national championship, and then goes on, and now he's a starting quarterback. So you never know. I don't say, hey, you should transfer. I don't say don't. It's up to that individual. But we've seen both, like a Jalen Hurts who transfers, goes to Oklahoma, gets drafted. And we've seen Mac Jones who sits behind Tua and Jalen Hurts. I mean, think about how crazy that Alabama team was. They had Mac Jones, Tua, and Jalen Hurts, 1, 2, and 3. They're all starting quarterbacks in the NFL now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to your point, Monty, it always comes down to, and I know it's unfair, but it always comes down to the kid. Like, how is that particular kid going to handle the situation? Like you said, you could have someone who's just transferring, like a Tate Martell, who has bounced around from your Ohio States to your Miamis to basically wherever the hell he is now because he's transferred so many times I've lost count. And then you have your Jalen Hurts. If you go in there with the right mindset and you figure out the place that's going to utilize your skill set best, then yeah, the transfer portal is an option. But kind of bringing it back to full circle with Spencer Rattler, he can't just to transfer and think that that's going to magically solve his problems. Playing time's not going to solve his problem. Getting in the film room and figuring out I can't do this with the football is going to solve it. But yeah, absolutely. And to your point real quick about Bama, Bryce Young, who granted I know Bama lost yesterday, still has a lot of talent. That's a kid last year who had to sit behind Mac Jones. So it's just a never ending cycle for Alabama.
Well, I will say this. I don't know how you feel about this. There's no SEC bias, George. You have to stop saying this. You look over the last 5, let's not go to the last 5 years. The most dominant conference in the country where first and second round picks is the SEC. It's not even close. Georgia and Alabama would beat any team. Okay, let's say you want to say Ohio State is the best team in the Big Ten. Oregon beat them. Let's say you want to say Iowa. Bama and Georgia would roll Iowa, no disrespect to Iowa, 38-10. There's no SEC bias. They are the best schools in the country every year. Do you agree with the SEC bias, or do you agree with what I'm saying?
No, I agree with what you're saying because I do think it's like I get why fans are frustrated. So I totally get that part because I think it's kind of a two-parter to it. But like on the flip side, to your whole point, if there isn't a Clemson who has a great year with a Deshaun Watson or has a great year in the freshman year with Trevor Lawrence, then you know what? The proof kind of tells us that an SEC team's going to win. Because even if it's not a Bama winning, okay, then it's an LSU. And if it's not an LSU, guess what? Georgia looks really good sometimes. And to your point, Monty, I would even take away Bama and Georgia for a second. I would go as far to say, if a team like Florida or a team like Texas A&M, if they're constantly playing these Big Ten or Pac-12 teams, they'll probably beat them 85% of the time. Like it's a conference-wide thing outside of Vanderbilt and then I guess South Carolina. The whole conference can really compete with anyone at this point. So I do think that I get why fans are frustrated, but it makes sense why the SEC is so talented. Why they're always at the top.
The speed in the SEC. I went to the Michigan Alabama game a couple years ago here in Orlando, and Michigan had talent. Michigan was very good that year, but the speed at the wide receiver, it was so dominant. I mean, you watch these guys run. You have linebackers who are faster than quarterbacks. I mean, it's just the speed. There's no SEC bias. And Joe says here, what SEC bias? Yeah, it's a religion there. It's a religion. They take it seriously. It's like the Yankees in baseball. If you don't win, it's a failure, right? That's how it is. SEC football, just go back and look at the top first 2 rounds of the draft picks for the last 5 years. It's all SEC players.
Yeah. And I'll throw this in, Monty, real quick to your point about it being like religion there for them. LSU 2 years ago won a national championship. They just had back-to-back mediocre years. Coach O's probably going to get fired in about a week or 2 from now. Like that's how important LSU and just SEC football is in general.
I said a couple weeks ago, I said if LSU doesn't win 10 games and they get blown out by Bama, he's gone. He just won a national championship 2 years ago, and he's gone. He's gone. Okay, Chris, let's talk about your expertise here. The Saints. Jameis Winston on paper is having a good year. 64% completions, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He hasn't lost a fumble, correct? That was his big thing too. Hasn't lost a fumble, but 144 passing yards per game. This is a Sean Payton offense. They're 31st in the NFL. What is going wrong?
It's a lot of things. Funny enough, I will say I thought Jameis Winston had his best game as a member of the Saints last week. I know that the numbers weren't gaudy like the 5 touchdowns against Green Bay, but I kind of think as we move on, that game's going to look like an anomaly. So I think that last week's game was Winston's best performance in terms of being accurate with the football, taking shots down the field when they were there, and not turning it over, which he checked each box, just didn't get enough opportunity, only had 23 pass attempts, unfortunately. I think it's a two-parter. I think, one, the Saints are trying to still figure out what is their offense with Jameis Winston. It's not the same that it would be with Drew Brees. It's not the same that it would be with Taysom Hill. It's not the same that it would be in 2019 with Teddy Bridgewater. So you're trying to find that balance. But I think what really hurts them is the Saints' weapons are not good. And the two of us have said this for years now, and we'll kind of continue to bang the drum until they fix that problem. Without Michael Thomas, and even if Michael Thomas was in, it's Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and then what? Like that's the problem that the Saints have had. And yeah, they've had Jared Cook and Emmanuel Sanders in other years, but now you don't have that. So basically, it's can Kenny Stills, who's 29 and a veteran at this point, make a play, or can a Lil Jordan Humphrey or a Chris Hogan, who was playing lacrosse 3-4 months ago, can guys like that make plays? And I think the Saints kind of understand, and they're to blame for this, but I think they understand that their weapons right now are not good enough for them to have this high-flying offense that I think Sean Payton would want to have. And if they do that and they try to have a high-flying offense with receivers who aren't getting separation, then I think that's where you open the window for Jameis Winston to be a turnover-prone quarterback. So I think the Saints have done this to themselves. Long story short, they are to blame for the situation they're currently in, offensively speaking. But I really don't think that it's all, them thinking, oh, Jameis isn't good, which, granted, don't get me wrong, he's not necessarily great, but I think it's more so the skill players around him just aren't good, and the Saints are trying to play it conservative.
Okay, so a little bit conservative, which, again, you want to put the quarterback in the best position available. But one thing I don't understand is Alvin Kamara is averaging only 3.8 yards per rush, and their leading receiver is Deontay Harris with 11 catches in 4 games. So first of all, how are they 2-2 when their offense is at best mediocre?
Yeah, I would take mediocre at this point, Monte, with the way that they're playing. But funny enough, if they don't blow an 11-point lead in 9 minutes last week, they're 3-1, which is just mind-blowing because this team's just not playing well. But to answer your point, how are they even 2-2? I think it's very simple. I think the Saints defensively are one of the best teams in the league. Don't take last week's meltdown against the Giants as some type of thing of what they will be. I think that was more so a fluke because the time of possession wasn't going their way towards the end. But I think defensively, this is what they do, whether it's week 1 against Green Bay kind of shutting them down, or even week 3, forcing Mac Jones to throw 3 interceptions, who, by the way, looked really good Sunday night the following week. So I think that the Saints defense, which is missing their best defensive lineman in David Onyemata, and also missing one of their best pass rushers, Marcus Davenport, they're just so deep that allows them to stay in games. And that's why I think the Saints are going to be competitive throughout the year. Now, I don't know if that means they're going to be a playoff team, but will they be a 500 team for most of the season? Yeah, and it's all because of the defense. So it is wild, and I will throw this in here. Alvin Kamara was asked during his press conference this week about the lack of targets, and Alvin is not a guy who kind of demands things or tries to build attention, but he kind of said, I would like to get a couple targets or two. So I think if the Saints are finally going to break this weird, slump that they have going on with Alvin Kamara not being used as a pass catcher, I think today would be the day to do it. With Washington not having John Bostic and a couple of the defensive players, I think that you got to get him involved as a pass catcher at some point. I think today would be a good day to do it.
It's funny because you say that, and when Drew Brees was there, he was the face of the franchise. And one of the things I said is that whatever you feel about Drew Brees on the field not having a strong arm his last 1 or 2 seasons, he was a leader in the locker room. Alvin Kamara should be saying, get me the damn ball. I know it's not his personality, but with Michael Thomas really not playing and Jameis Winston kind of being a little quirky, you need someone to be the voice. Who's the voice on that offense in the locker room?
Well, the voice in the locker room, offensively speaking, is probably going to be Teron Armstead. Now, he is hurt right now, but he will be back in a couple of weeks, and he's been on this team for such a long time that he is your, annual captain every single year in terms of leadership. Even with Breeze, it was Breeze and Armstead, offensively speaking, being leaders. And I think Alvin's got a weird way of going about it, because I do think Alvin does want to take on a bigger leadership role. He just does it. He kind of goes in a quiet manner, in the sense that anything he does leadership-wise, we'll never find out about, because it'll be all behind the scenes. And I do kind of wonder that if Alvin, after last week, he had 26 carries, and I think that's too many carries for Alvin. I think you have to, there's nothing wrong with 26 touches, but you got to find a way to make it where he's not getting banged up by defensive linemen the whole time. You want to match up against linebackers, match up against safeties. And I kind of think that there probably was some type of meeting behind closed doors where Alvin and Sean talked about this. And it wouldn't shock me if early in today's game, you're going to get an option route where Alvin's going to have the chance to either cut in or cut out, depending on where the linebackers' hips are basically shifted and what he feels about it. So I do agree. Does someone have to step up in the leadership role? Absolutely. But I do think it is possible that Alvin's maybe telling the media the right things, and then behind the scenes is like, okay, Sean, you got to get me the football.
Yeah,
here.
no,
So
that's fair enough. He's not a very vocal guy. He's sort of lead by example, quiet, and that's his personality. I'm not saying do something, but when you're the best player on the team, the best player on the team often has to be the vocal leader at times. We talked about this defense, dominant against the run, only averaging 66 yards against, second in the NFL in points per game, 17.3 point. What's this team's strength on defense? Because we're going to break down the Washington game in a minute. That Washington team, what Pro Football Focus had them number 3 on total defense. They had them ranked number 1 in their front 4. That Washington defense has been terrible, and the Saints defense has been almost dominant.
Yeah, I think it's a two-parter for the Saints defense. And I think actually the reason they struggled last week was pretty simple. When Marshawn Lattimore's on his game, I think that's when the Saints defense is at his best, because he can just take one receiver out of the game and it kind of just dumbs everything down for the rest of the defense. Like, okay, we don't have to worry about that guy. Marshawn's got him. Let's focus on the other weapons on this team. And when that happens, like it did in week 1 or it did in week 3, then it just makes life so simple for the Saints. So I think it's the secondary with Lattimore playing well. They've actually got decent production out of their rookie Paulson Adebo, albeit he struggled last week. And then their safety duo, probably one of the most underrated in the league, with Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins. That's been a big key. But I also want to give credit to the linebackers. I think Demario Davis might be the best player in the NFL that not enough people talks about.
Nobody knows about him outside of New Orleans.
It's insane. It's insane because every week he plays at an all-pro level, whether it's his leadership, whether it's energy in the run game, whether it's making great pass breakups in the pass game. He just does it all. And I think as long as he's there, he's going to continue to lead a good defense. And I want to throw it out there. Pete Werner, the rookie from Ohio State, finally got to play starter minutes last week. Man, he looked really good. So if he can continue that, then the Saints kind of have that Robin to Demario Davis's Batman at linebacker. I think that's where the Saints can get even better. But defensively, they're doing everything well except for consistently hitting the quarterback. That's what I was saying.
Why do you think he's not getting the national recognition? Because every time I watch this guy play, he's all over the field.
I think it's kind of simple. I think us football fans, for some reason, we're either love interceptions or we love people hit the quarterback. I think that's why
sacks and interceptions. Exactly.
Right? So like it gets to the point where we love our TJ Watts, we love our Aaron Donalds, we love
Jamal
our
Adams.
Yeah, absolutely. We love all those guys, and I don't blame fans for loving them. But then we kind of forget about the guys in the middle who do the dirty work, who set up those opportunities for everyone else, and they kind of get lost in the shuffle. If they're not a Luke Kuechly or they're not a Patrick Willis, then people kind of forget about them.
Yeah, listen, when the Packers let him go, I love Blake Martinez. I know he was a liability covering running backs out of the backfield, but that dude was making 130 tackles every game. And then the Giants got him, and he's hurt now. So, but I love guys like that. I love guys who are just making plays all over the field. I don't care about sacks. I don't care about interceptions. Like you said, you need someone to do the dirty work. Okay, let's break this game down. Washington football team, like I said, their offense is scoring 25 points a game. So their offense is better than what people thought they would be, but their defense is giving up 30 points a game. Give us a few keys to this. Break this down. And are we going to see more of Taysom Hill this week with the 2 touchdowns? I know as a fantasy football guy, again, who has Alvin Kamara, I don't want to see Taysom Hill ever in red zone and how is he so successful? You know he's going to run when he gets in the game.
It is actually pretty wild. I tell Saints fans, I'm like, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm probably running that option play in the red zone until it gets stopped. Like, I don't know why it continues to work. I don't know if the Saints run blocking scheme is that good that it just works every time. But when they do power QB run with a fullback kind of shifting in motion,
it's the same play every time,
and it always works.
He pauses, and then it's wide open.
It's insane. But for this game, I think there's a couple of things. I think for starters, I think one matchup that's going to really dictate this game is Terry McLaurin versus Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah.
I think whoever kind of wins that matchup, and I don't even know if someone will win that matchup. I could see it being a 50-50 matchup between the two of them. That will help because obviously for a guy like Taylor Heineke, who's been a really good story, a lot of his throws, and I'm not even trying to rip the guy, but a lot of his throws are kind of jump balls to McLaurin where he's just kind of praying he's going to come down with it.
But McLaurin has been making them though.
Exactly. And last week especially, he had 2 really great touchdowns against Atlanta that got them back in that game. So when that's working, that's obviously really good for Washington. That's going to help. On the flip side, if you're New Orleans, if you could take McLaurin out of the game with Curtis Samuel injured and a couple other guys hurt for Washington, I think that kind of helps you, obviously. So I think that's one factor. And I think it's pretty simple on the other side. I think if you're the Saints defense, you got to get pressure on Heineke as well. And that's something that Washington's not allowing. Their offensive line has been really good this year. They had 4 separate linemen last week who did not give up a single pressure. So when you're doing that and Taylor Heineke's allowed to be free and open, that's where he can hit McKissick and he can hit McLaurin and all these other weapons that he has. So I do think that's important. And I think one more thing, these 2 quarterbacks that you're seeing here, really fun stories, but Jameis and Heineke are both guys that are going to throw turnover-worthy passes, and whichever defense can actually come up with those turnovers. I know it's the name of the game every week, but it's kind of that simple because I could see this being a 20-17 game where it's kind of ugly and both defenses play well because they're not, offensively gifted per se. So I think whichever defense can steal an extra possession, I think that's kind of going to dictate who wins this one.
Yeah, and it's funny. Heineke broke down a little bit. He was sleeping on his sister's couch just last year. This guy was cut by every spring, summer football league. He was cut numerous times, and just a great story. All right, give us a score for this game. Who wins and why?
Yeah, I think that the Saints are going to win 20-17. I haven't felt good about any Saints game this year except for week 3 when they played the Patriots. I kind of felt they were going to bounce back, and the reason being is there's some kind of confidence to how I feel about the Saints when they lose, and when they lose, and it's Sean Payton's fault. Like last week, Sean Payton just got way too conservative at the end, and it just came back to bite him. And I think that Sean kind of knew that. He kind of took accountability for it. And I don't know if the Saints are good enough to blow the doors off of Washington. I don't personally think they are, and I don't think the Saints are good enough to put up 25, 30 points right now because their offense is just stalling. But in a slugfest in Washington when the defense is playing well, I kind of think that's their brand. And if you're the Saints, you got the bye week coming up. If you can get into the bye week 3-2 without Michael Thomas, without Eric McCoy, without David Onyemata, and then you get all these guys back after the bye week, then you can grow some confidence. Say, okay, maybe we are a 10-7 football team. And guess what? 10-7 probably gets you that final wild card spot. So I think that the Saints are going to go into this game, view it as a must win. And I think there will be a sense of urgency that they're going to need. And I think they're going to win 20-17.
Okay, real quick. And then we're going to bring Daniel Goodwin on with you to talk a little NBA hoops. We'll talk Knicks. We'll talk Bulls. You're a betting man here. Okay. If you would have told me that the Saints were 3-2 going into the bye week, I would have definitely signed up for that without Michael Thomas. I want to know about 3 players coming back next year. Is Michael Thomas going to be in the Saints uniform? Is Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill? Are they all on the Saints roster next year? Break each of them down real quick.
I think Michael Thomas, I wish I could give you an answer, Monty, but I have to see how he plays. I think if Michael Thomas plays really well, I think it opens up an interesting debate because the Saints can say, okay, this is why we put up with this crap. Or on the flip side, the Saints can say, okay, let's see what the trade market is for a guy like that. I think if he gets hurt again, I think there's nothing he can really do because then you're selling low on his value and you're kind of stuck in this weird spot. So I think if Michael Thomas plays well, I think the Saints are going to say, okay, let's just figure this out. Let's just kind of stick with him because when he is healthy, he's great. Jameis Winston, I've been telling people this, and I know they get mad at me when I tweet about it, but I am convinced that the Saints are going to go big game hunting at quarterback next year. I think that the Saints are going to make a lot of calls and see, can they get a Russell Wilson? Can they get an Aaron Rodgers, which I don't think they'd be able to get Rodgers. But I think if for the Saints, I think that's kind of the route they're going to go. So I would go as far to say that I do not think Jameis is going to be on the Saints roster next year. Now, he can have a great second half of the season, and then my opinion could change. But with the information I have right now, I kind of feel like this is a guy who is probably not going to be on the roster next year. And as for Taysom Hill, I think that's up to Taysom Hill. I think if Taysom Hill accepts that he should be an offensive weapon, then absolutely I think he's back in New Orleans. I think if Taysom Hill is going to be hunting for a quarterback spot, I think he will not be in New Orleans. I kind of think it's that simple for him.
Okay, we're going to bring Daniel Goodwin on. Daniel, how are you this Sunday?
What's going on? Nice to be here. I'm doing
Nice to have
very
you.
well. Very
I
well.
brought you on to talk a little Bulls here. We're going to talk a little Knicks with Chris. First of all, let's talk about the Bulls because I look at this team and I'm like, wow, their first 7 guys are pretty impressive. I don't think they're very deep, but talk about the acquisitions they've made, getting DeMar DeRozan. There's a phrase that I want you to remember because Laker fans used to say this all the time. When Alex Caruso comes in, you're on cruise control. Okay? It's the Caruso show. He is a very good bench player. Do you like what the Bulls have done this offseason?
The Bulls have made wonderful acquisitions. I think they're very underrated. I think it was an article earlier this week or some talk about who had the best offseason. I think the Bulls had the best offseason. I mean, when you can add 2 starters to your mix, you add several backup role players, you've actually changed the entire roster. They only got 3 guys that were really there from last year. So the movement that they made, Caruso, Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan coming in, I mean, those are wonderful acquisitions. Not only are they great acquisitions on the offensive end, but defensively, they all can defend the perimeter, right? And then you have different levels of scoring. So you got 3-point shooting, you got inside play with Nikola Vucevic, you got athleticism with DeMar DeRozan and Zach
And DeMar
Levine.
DeRozan's the master of the in-between game.
The
He's not going to
mid-range.
shoot the 3, but mid-range is great. And one of the things I love about the 3 guys they've got, all 3 of these guys, one thing you know about all 3 of these guys play so hard in practice all the time. Ball, Caruso, DeRozan. They are pros. They live, breathe, and sleep basketball. Alex Caruso's sister was getting married when they were in the bubble. He didn't go because he didn't want to risk getting COVID. And he's like, this is a chance to win a championship. And his sister's his best friend. He did like a live stream at the wedding. I mean, these guys are all hungry to win.
Yeah, dedication to the game. And all you got to do is look at the preseason games. They're playing as a unit. They're playing together. You know what I mean? Lonzo Ball is the perfect addition because he is a true point guard. He didn't get to flourish the way he wanted to, in LA and in New Orleans. But with this team, he'll be able to run the show, kind of get guys in position to score baskets. They love playing with him already. Zach Levine is like a different person out there. You could see the difference between his play last year and his play so far in the preseason right now. Just the exuberance that he has, the excitement that he has for the game.
I love Zach Levine. He can score 30. Think about this.
Easily.
Like, let's say Zach Levine, now he doesn't have to score 30 a game. He could score 25 because, DeMar DeRozan is going to get 18. Vucevic is a poor man's joker in Denver.
No.
He can rebound. He could score. He could shoot. He could do it all.
He's a walking 20 and 12 easily.
Yeah.
20 and 12 every night. You know what I mean? He can get that by accident. So he's very, very, very talented on the offensive end. He can pass the ball. He can run the floor. There's so many different things. He can step outside, and then he also has post moves. That's what you want in your big man.
Well, and not only that, they're saying just from preseason, they're saying, and anytime you have a LeBron James or a true point guard like a Chris Paul, chemistry right away because your point guard is there to make everyone gel. Talk about how quickly they look like a cohesive unit.
Yeah, they're running the floor. They're doing everything. And this is without a couple of players that, Kobe White hadn't played yet, and neither has Patrick Williams. And Patrick Williams would be the starting 4-man there. So, when you have those other guys coming off the bench, you got, so you're thinking like the top 7, top 8, even 9. I think they're really talented going in. And not only that, but just the cohesion that they have as a unit so far playing together, you can see that they really enjoy this. They're looking forward to it.
Yeah,
and,
like I said,
they're saying all the right things.
I think DeRozan needed a fresh take. I think Ball needed a fresh start. And Caruso's just a solid pro. He's not going to score 20 points, but he's going to hit the big 3. He's going to take a charge. He's going to get the steal. Okay, Chris, let's move to our Knicks. Listen, I love the fact that they got Kemba Walker, probably on the back 9 of his career. But I think that in order for the Knicks to take it to the next level, they need to have R.J. Barrett be the best player on the team for the entire season, not Julius Randle. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Not necessarily. I think if Julius Randle plays the way he played last year, I think it's going to be, at least regular season speaking, I think it's going to be hard for RJ Barrett to be better than that because Randle was just such a great playmaker for them. But I do agree. I think if you're the Knicks and your goal is obviously to kind of ascend to what you were last year, which was a first round exit, yeah, absolutely. RJ Barrett has to take that next step because I always thought about RJ Barrett. he's not going to be Zion. He's not going to be Ja Morant, but can he be a solid mid-tier star? A guy who can get you 22, 23 a night. And I think he has the capability of doing it. I think it all kind of starts with his three-point shooting and whether or not that could uptick, which the Knicks are shooting the ball really well in the preseason right now. So hopefully that carries over to the regular season. But you mentioned Kemba Walker, and I'm really excited about Kemba. Obviously, when you get a New York guy in New York, the fans are going to embrace him. Evan Fournier is the guy I'm really excited about because he's looked really good in the preseason, and he's always that guy who he can quietly get 15 a night easily. And I think that the Knicks, especially in the playoffs when they played the Hawks, it was hard to score buckets for them consistently. You just saw if Alec Burks or basically anyone coming off the bench wasn't giving them production, they were struggling to find that next playmaker. And I think Evan Fournier kind of gives them that. And I'll throw in one more guy who I thought looked really good last night. If Obi Toppin takes that next step, I think that really helps the Knicks. I think it helps the Knicks for two reasons. One, obviously that helps you in the present, but even in the future, if your young guys start to step up, and if you're the Knicks and you see a star who's out there that you might want to trade for, now your assets look a little bit more enticing than they did before. So I think it's kind of a win-win if he does end up playing really well.
By the way, Kevin Knox I said it at the time, this guy's never going to be a legitimate NBA player. He went from starting to he's just, I don't see him contributing. He's terrible. But you bring up a good point. You look at this team now with Fournier, with Walker, and the reason why I say R.J. Barrett needs to be that player is because we've seen Julius Randle in the playoffs. He's kind of limited. He's not a great three-point shooter. He can score, but if you back off him, he's a lot like Giannis used to be when he first started. He's gonna charge into guys, get into foul trouble. He's a workhorse, but he's not a pure scorer. I want to see R.J. Barrett score 22 points a game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, because I thought, honestly, in his second year, he improved more than Ja Morant did in his second season. Do you agree with that?
Maybe for the regular season, I'll say, yeah, the one thing I love about Ja Morant is he's a big time player. Like I remember when the lottery happened, I wasn't as much devastated as the Knicks not getting the number 1 pick as I was devastated as the fact that they didn't even get the number 2 pick. Cause I thought Ja Morant in New York would have just been electric. And again, not a knock on RJ. Ja Morant though, and you'll see it, he'll go toe to toe with a team like Utah or even a team like Golden State in the playing game. Like that's just him. Like he just rises up to the occasion every single time. So I don't know if I'll say he made that type of leap, but I do think that RJ actually finished that first round series against the Hawks on a high note. It's carried over so far to the preseason. He's looked really good. And I do agree because the thing about, Randall, which a lot of Knicks fans love in the regular season, it doesn't work in the playoffs because you can't just lower your shoulder and barrel into the paint and expect that, 1, you're not going to get called for a charge, 2, they're not going to stop you, and then 3, that you're just going to kick it to a wide open man. It doesn't work that way in the playoffs. Everything kind of just tightens up. And if you're not a LeBron, if you're not a Giannis, if you're not a Jokic, it's hard to be that really, really big dude that facilitates the ball everywhere. It really is just tough if you're not just methodical about it. And Randall wasn't last postseason. So I do agree. If you have RJ there, that takes a lot of pressure off him. That takes a lot of pressure off the rest of the team. And then if you're the Knicks, all right, if you're going to kind of take that next step, is RJ going to be one of your 3 best guys for a potential championship team in 2-3 years from now? The answer would be yes if he takes that next step.
Okay, Dan, real quick, and then we'll get Chris out of here and we'll switch to the Bears. Who is considered the number 1 on the Bulls? It's still going to be Zach Levine, right? And I say the Bulls go 48-34. I'm saying the same thing for the Knicks. Give me the over/under, Dan. 48-34 for the Bulls.
I think that's right on target, man. That's somewhere where I was thinking. I'm gonna go 1 game below that, 47.
47-30. Okay.
Yeah, but just 1 game under it. I think they're going to be a unit that has to work together, that has to get together, right? This is preseason. Let's not get it twisted. It's not the regular season yet, right? So defenses are a little bit lackadaisical, even though they always are in the NBA. Let's just be honest about it. But they'll be able to produce wonderful stats in a regular season, and we'll see how they mesh going into a playoff. I think they're definitely a top 4 team in the East, though.
Okay.
And then with Zach Levine, I think he's going to be, of course, the number 1 option. He is Zach Levine. I mean, he's by standard, by stats, by numbers, by what he's done. He's put in the work to be that top guy out there. Now, DeMar DeRozan, man, that's a tremendous 1-2 punch with him and Zach Levine. And then, like I said, you got a walking 20 and 12 guy in Vucevic. So, the offensive end is not what I'm worried about. Defensively, if they can slow some teams down, just get stops when they need them, because nobody's going to play outstanding defense the whole entire game, right? In the NBA, they're going to give up points like crazy. But at the same time, you need to get stops in the fourth quarter when it really counts.
And I will say this: think about Zach Levine. How many players can you say can play above the rim and
Mhm.
dunk on someone and also play small and shoot the three? There's
Absolutely.
not a lot of players who could do that in the NBA. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 off the top. But yeah,
Mhm.
no. So you're saying about 47 and 35. Okay, 48 and 34 for the Knicks. Over under.
I think I'm going to go under. I still think the Knicks are a playoff team, but I think there's a couple of teams last year that kind of struggled that will be better. I think Miami's going to be a lot better this year than they were last year. I think Miami kind of just, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was adjusting getting out of that bubble or maybe not having as much time to prepare. But now you add Kyle Lowry to that team. I kind of think that Miami takes that next step. I wouldn't be shocked if Boston's a little bit better next year. Chicago, I definitely expect to be better this
What
upcoming
about my
season too.
Hawks and Trae Young?
That's the other thing. I don't think that the Hawks were a fluke. I think a lot of people just thought they had a crazy
they're very
postseason,
good.
but they're really young. You have a lot of great shooters around Trae Young, like Kevin Huerter, like Bogdanovich. Then you add into the fact that you have Collins and Capella, so you have your bigs. I think that Hunter's kind of going to take that next step if he's healthy.
We'll see what Cam Reddish does too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that the Knicks are a playoff team, but it would not surprise me if the Knicks are kind of in that 6 to 7 seed kind of line right now, because I think the East is a lot better than people think.
Yeah. East is
All
going
right.
to beat up on each other.
Absolutely.
Chris, how can we follow you? How can we support you? Love you coming on the show. Fans love you. Really appreciate the time.
Definitely. So people can check out my Twitter at Rosvoglu Report, ROSVOGLOU Report. And then they could check my college football and NFL work on thespun.com, or could just check out the Saints podcast, Straight Up Saints, on Apple.
All right, Chris. Love having you on. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you, Monte.
Great job by Chris. Always does a good job. All right, Dan, let's get your Bears background up here. I got a couple of them going. Andrea obviously loves when you come on. Look at that. Dan has the best NFL gear.
I appreciate that.
All right, let's get right to this. I look at what's going on with the Chicago. We talk about the Bulls. Now let's talk about the Chicago Cubs. Javier Baez, I love him. I don't know if the Mets are going to sign him. I love him. But you look around the league, Chris Bryant in San Francisco, Anthony Rizzo's with the Yankees, Craig Kimbrell with the White Sox. We saw the guy, what's his name? He's now on Boston, who was with Schwarber, Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a Chicago Cubs fan, are we just rebuilding for the next 5 years?
Yeah, they're going to be rebuilding. How long it's going to take, I don't know, man. We got some decent pieces in here right now, but these are guys who are coming into the league when they're 30, 31 years old as rookies. So how are they going to be, how are they going to last for 2 or 3 years or whatever? So I think it's a stopgap, some of these guys that we have on the roster right now, and then we're going to get to some of those younger guys that are in the farm system. We'll see how they playing out, though.
When you see all the guys in the playoffs now who are on the Cubs, are you like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. It was really a bad situation. You got a situation where they didn't want to pay these guys, right? So, they bring them up and you kind of slow roll their process into getting into free agency by working the rules of the MLB. And they got some rules set up to where, you can kind of keep guys on your roster 7, 8, 9 years sometimes before you can, before they hit free agency. And that's the situation. You got Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo. I mean, these are guys that put up numbers, produced for years.
Won a title for you?
Won a title. We've been to the playoffs 5 of the last 6 years. I mean, it's outstanding what they did.
It was a good run.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's talk Bears 2-2. Give the fans player update. Akeem Hicks groin. Khalil Mack said he hurt his rib in last week's game. How are these guys doing today? What's happening with them?
I think they'll be fine. Khalil Mack is definitely playing. He's not going to miss this game against the Raiders. He's going to try to get the opportunity to get a sack or two and, cause some havoc out there. So I wasn't worried about him, not one bit. I mean, this is a ongoing thing. Whenever you get guys and they're your star players, they get rest periods during the week and things like that. So they'll throw him on the injury report with this or that and, everything like that. But it's not a broken ribs or anything like that. He's got some sore ribs, but he'll be fine. He'll definitely be fine out there.
Okay, so last week against the Detroit Lions, I don't know if the Detroit Lions imploded, but 3 times in the red zone, 3 turnovers for Jared Goff. Talk about going from the penthouse to the Rams to the outhouse in Detroit. What a disaster. But I look at this Bears defense, kind of middle of the road. On the outside looking in, They are 10th, giving up 22.8 points per game. But I look at this Bears defense, and it's kind of different on the outside looking in. It's almost like they are bend but don't break. But I want them to be more aggressive. Am I wrong here?
No, you're not wrong at all. I think they are a little bit bend but don't break. I think they're kind of trying to get out of that. Sean Desai is really kind of working on trying to get out of that. He's been a little bit more aggressive than Pagano was last year. Pagano was the one who really installed that bend but don't break type of defense, right?
But then when you have playmakers like they do, you can't just read and react. You got to put pressure on the quarterback and running backs to make them read and react.
Yeah, and see that's the thing. The Bears are leading the league in sacks. They 15 sacks on the season. Khalil Mack's got 4. Robert Quinn, believe it or not, has 4.5 after having only 2 last year. So you think about that situation. They're doing good at getting pressure on the ball, but when does the pressure happen, right? That's my concerning thing. We're getting some sacks, but we need to get sacks on third down to get off of the field. Things like that, instead of letting them march up and down the field. That's the concern that I did have for the Bears defense. If you let a team like Detroit march up and down the field, when you start facing, the Raiders, and they have a red zone target in Darren Waller, they're going to score on those trips inside the 20, inside the 10. 3 possessions,
right?
All of them inside the 20.
Well-coached offensive teams, not someone who says we need to bite kneecaps as a head coach. Well-coached offensive teams with good quarterbacks are going to score. So they do need to be. Joe says Detroit, where dreams goes to die. I'll take it a step further, where careers go to die. Right?
Exactly.
That's basically
Hall of Famers go to die, right?
Exactly.
And retire early.
So, yeah, exactly. Retire early like Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders. All right. So the offense has struggled big time. Where do we see improvement? I thought Justin Fields did as good as he could last week. I've loved him coming out of college when they moved up. They got to let this guy run the ball. They got to let him make plays. I know you lost your running back, but Williams is not a bad back. I think Williams should have a big game today. How do you feel he progressed from game 1 to game 2 in Justin Fields?
I think he progressed tremendously, and a lot of it has to do with the play calling, protection packages, things like that. They didn't protect him worth a dime when it was coming to Cleveland, and they ran 73% of their routes were hitch routes against Cleveland. Right. You're not going to win football games if you don't throw the ball beyond 3 to 5 yards down the field. It's just not going to happen, right? So Damian Williams coming in, he ran the ball last week 8 times for 55 yards and a touchdown. He kind of put the seal on the situation last week with that little 23-yard scamper he had on the right side of the field. So I think he's more than capable with Khalil Herbert backing him up to man the fort for a couple of weeks while David Montgomery sits out.
Yeah,
right?
He's a very good backup.
Yeah, and now what I do want to see the Bears do is open up the play calling even some more, right? And what I mean by that is give him more opportunities to throw the ball. We've got some weapons on the team. We've got some guys who have speed, but we have to utilize it. We have 2 huge tight ends who, for some strange reason, we're not utilizing at all. One's got 8 catches and the other has 1, on the season. So, throwing the ball 17 times, that was great. He threw the ball downfield, 12 yards per attempt, 19 yards per completion. And 5 throws over 20 yards. So they're taking big shots down the field, which is wonderful. But I think they need to be more balanced and do more passing plays. And that's a strange thing because last time I was here, I was talking about running the ball more, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. now we flip-flop completely. So it's kind of strange.
Okay, I got Robinson and Khalil Mack there in the background with the Chicago skyline. I want you to know it took me about 25 minutes to get that situated just so I could have it for you. I do
that
some
is
work
awesome
for you,
too.
Dan. I'm doing
That's
some work
awesome.
for you here. All right, let's break down this game. I'm not sold on the Raiders. Haven't been. John Gruden came out. It just came out this week. John Gruden made some racial comments in an email. I don't know how that's going to play in the locker room, but I will say this. If you're that much of a scumbag to say that in an email, what are you saying in person? Break this game down. Do you think there's going to be some residual effect amongst the Raiders with John Gruden's racist email?
I think there is. I think there has to be. You know what I mean? When you have 53 men in the locker room, there are going to be pockets of individuals. I don't care how dedicated you are to the team or to winning, that some of that stuff resonates with them and it's going to strike a chord in them, right? So how do they view John Gruden? Is it any turmoil? Is it any in locker room strife that's going on right now? We don't know. They'll keep it under wraps as best they can. The Raiders came out and they made a statement about the situation. When you have that type of situation happening, that's nothing to be hidden. Everybody's going to know about it. And at some point, people are going to start asking questions and trying to, gauge players and to how they're thinking. So that's going to weigh on the players' minds. I don't doubt it at all. I think they're going to have some type of turmoil there. How it plays out on the field, I don't know yet. But what I will say is when it comes to this game, if the Bears can get downfield, if they can utilize some of their weapons, stick to the running game, let it be strong for you, and depend on it, and then get Justin Fields outside of the pocket. Let him scramble a little bit. He can throw the ball on the run like nobody else, right? So I think he's really good at doing that. Let him utilize his skill set to make him, comfortable and be able to be out there and play. And if the Bears can play defense, and if they can get off the field on third down, and one other thing offensively, something that's last two games, 1 for 11 for the Chicago on third down.
You can't win games like that. I was going to bring that up.
1 for 8 last week against Detroit. So you have to be better on third down if you're Chicago.
100%.
And stop letting teams walk up and down the field.
Okay,
because when they get in that red zone, teams like the Raiders, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, these are the teams we have coming up. They're going to score in those situations.
Okay, I'm going to bring on Rico Graziano right now to finish out this segment with you. Rico, how you doing?
Yeah,
I love the little Halloween background and Batman. What studio are you in today?
I'm in the kids' bedroom, the kids' studio, studio.
I like it. Okay, so I brought you out here. Obviously, we all do fantasy football. I've been talking about Kyle Pitts from week 1. Kyle Pitts finally breaking out, 25.4 fantasy points. How about this? I was gonna text you earlier this week. This was the bet of the century. I said this earlier. Rookie quarterbacks in London are 0-4, and they've lost by a combined 78 points when they go to London. Taking Atlanta was the easiest pick of the year. But since we're talking about Rico, you got to be happy with Kyle Pitts' production.
I literally, Levi texted me, and he's like, "Oh, Monte's got to be gushing." I go, "He's been posting it on the bottom of the screen." Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts. He's too good. Okay, so now while you're here, I ranked my QB quarterbacks coming out. I had Trevor Lawrence number 1. I had Trey Lance number 2. I had Justin Fields 3. I had Mac Jones 4, and I had Zach Wilson of Utah. Now it's a 5. Rico, we'll start with you. Rate the top 5 rookie quarterbacks. How you think they're going to finish the season? Because I think Trey Lance is going to run for a lot of yards this year, and I'm hoping Kyle Shanahan really opens up the offense.
I don't see Trey Lance doing as well as people want him to do. I think that he has the same situation as Justin Fields. I think that they're a little too green, and we knew that coming out that they were really green. Even Trevor Lawrence is having a real rough, in quarterback.
Yes, but Rico, can I say Matt Nagy made it to the playoffs 2 out of 3 years with Mitchell Trubisky. Kyle Shanahan is considered, I put it in quotes because his record's terrible as a head coach, is considered an offensive guy. What's surprising me is Kyle Shanahan and Matt Nagy are not playing to these guys' strengths.
Well, I agree with you on that. I think that there's also a level of protecting their guy. This is their future. This is like me going out and buying the sports car and, not wanting to blow the engine in the first run. They don't want to, this is their future. This is not their, this is not like, hey, yes, they're living in the we need to win now world, but also they have to be smart about it and be like, hey, I can't have Trey Lance running around the field with Justin Fields and
I get what you're saying.
In year 1.
I get what you're saying, but you look at Justin Herbert, who, by the way, has won 7 out of his last 8 games, started right away. You look at Kyler Murray. You look at Josh Allen. These guys are running over the field. They're doing well. So what you're saying is accurate. My point is Kyle Shanahan and Matt Nagy are too conservative with their guys. You say, no, they're not. They're just protecting them.
Yeah, I think they're just protecting him. I think a lot of it comes from upstairs also. I don't know if, I think a lot of it comes from upstairs to where, you have these guys, these GMs and the office people who own the team and whatnot are like, hey, we know we're not winning Super Bowl. Like, we know we're not going to win the Super Bowl. We want to get to the playoffs is our Super Bowl. And at the end of the day, they don't really want to burn out their guy. I think that
I disagree.
I think a lot of
you
pressure.
may be right.
Why would Nagy not start him off the bat? Why would
No,
Nagy
you
not
may
put him
be-
from day one is my question.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Please.
Because as soon as Justin Fields got in the game, the clock on Matt Nagy started. That's his problem. He sabotaged this guy, and I'm not holding anything back from it. He sabotaged him by not playing him. It was never an open competition. He only gave him six actual reps during preseason and training camp.
Which is insane.
That makes no sense at all. So you slow rolled this process because he did not know how to utilize this guy. He didn't know how to utilize Mitch Trubisky because he was a more mobile quarterback as well. He doesn't know how to do it. Everybody that he's used, Nick Foles, Chase Daniel, Andy Dalton, they're more of pocket passers who stand put and throw the ball around. And they throw short passes. That's his problem. He has not utilized the talent that he has and created something. You got a guy and you drafted him back in April. You have 150, 160 days to instill a program or a game plan that's conducive with his skill set. He failed to do that. That's a dereliction of duty, and it's something that Matt Nagy should pay for.
Well, listen, I love what you're saying.
Boom.
Drop mic. Love what you're saying. And here's my thing. You moved up to get him.
Mm-hmm.
You moved up in the draft to get Justin Fields. So if you moved up in the draft, why the hell in preseason where you want to see players develop and learn, why did you give him 6 snaps? That's insane.
That's what he's done. He's done it from time to time. Back in 2019, right? He played Mitchell Trubisky none in the preseason, not one snap in the preseason. Not one time. And then he went out there in week 1 of 2019 and let him drop back for 57 times against a division rival in Green Bay. Makes no sense.
Okay, Dan, who wins today? And if the Bears make the playoffs, let's say they go 9-8, 10-7, and don't make the playoffs, is Matt Nagy gone?
Yes.
Okay. And
I think he's done irreversible damage to the team.
Okay,
and
who wins today?
Today, I'm going with Chicago in this game against the Raiders. I think the Raiders – I'm not sold on the Raiders. And like I said, there's turmoil that's going on there with John Gruden right now. That's going to weigh heavily on some of those players. They're not going to play their best. They're not going to be completely ready. And I think Chicago's going to go in there and handle business like they should.
Give me the score.
27-24, Chicago.
Okay. Daniel, how can we follow and support you? Rico doesn't agree. I'm not sold on the
I don't
Raiders
agree
either.
on the score. I think it's going to be blowout. I watched the Raiders. We agree with you, Monte. They're a fraud.
I appreciate that. We'll see, though.
I think you're giving the Raiders a little too much credit. I watched them play.
I haven't been.
Score.
I'm just worried about the Bears secondary. The pass rush is fine, but I'm worried about the secondary. The slot corner is an issue, and Kemba Walker on the other side is an issue, as well as our strong safety. Eddie Jackson can't tackle either.
Watch for this. Look for Renfro to have a huge game in the slot. That guy, I picked him up on fantasy. He gets like 6 or 8 targets a game. He's not going to get you 25. He'll score a touchdown. He'll get you 5 passes. That's my biggest concern on third down right now. Him getting so your biggest concern is my biggest concern, right, Dan? You're worried about that?
Absolutely. I'm definitely worried about that. Duke Shelley is not the guy. I think what the Bears need to do is slide Kendall Vildor inside. He can handle that slot position, and they need somebody else on the outside. That's their problem right now in the secondary.
Yeah.
Once you do that, it can be cleaned up a little bit.
If you're doing daily fantasy, try to pick up Hunter Renfro.
Man, please do it. I tried to.
Yeah, try to do it. All right, Dan, how can we follow and support you? Love having you on. By the way, when I do my NBA shows, going to have you on as much as I can to talk Bulls and NBA.
Hey, anytime I'm here. I appreciate the invite. It's nice chopping it up with you guys. You guys know your stuff, and I watch you every week, so I got a ton of respect for what you do.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're awesome, man.
If you guys can go and check out, anybody who's listening, check out the Three Kings of the Midway podcast, and then of course you can see me at Dan Goodwin III on Twitter. We also do a Spaces, right? Before the game, halftime and post game on Twitter, where a lot of our listeners to the podcast, they come on and they talk about the Bears and what they saw in the game. They ask us questions. We've had, Monte has been in there before. So is Jeff, who's from Nuts and Bolts, has been in there before.
But
they
Daniel,
answer
I'm going
some
to call
questions
you out
as well.
again here. I'm going to call you out again.
And I know where you're going.
My co-host Brad Ward on Monday night set up a little chat room on Twitter, so when we post stuff, we repost it. My friend Andrea is a die-hard Bears fan, and she wants to listen to your stuff, but she's not on social media. So you got to post it in the chat room so I could copy it and I could give it to her.
I will do that today. And not only that, but we're gonna, Andrea, if you're listening, our podcast is gonna be live soon on YouTube. So we got a YouTube channel set up, and we're getting that going too as well. So you'll be able to see it.
Please use
if you
my
want to.
page to promote your stuff.
I will.
All right, Dan. We'll see you in a few weeks. Great job as always. Go Bears.
Thank you guys, man. Y'all have a good day.
All right. He does. Rico, look at the background. I searched all over the internet, and then when I put this, it wouldn't fit. I got it to fit. It's Khalil Mack and Robinson of the Bears and the Chicago Bears background. I'm very proud of that. I'm not proud of a lot of the things I do.
I know how hard it is to make a picture smaller from its original and keep its size correct, especially with their heads on top. I already know what you were going through.
I wish I could make my head smaller on camera, but it just gets bigger and bigger, so we can't do that. Okay, Rico, so let's talk about this. You went to the game Monday night at SoFi Stadium. Just a beautiful, beautiful environment. Talk about what really disappointed me, Rico, and you text this to me. There were more Raider fans there. Why?
Well, I've been to San Diego. Well, I almost referred to them as San Diego. I kept saying it, but the Chargers games, I've been to them before when they were in San Diego. I feel like they're used to that. They a lot of the Charger fans came late. Like it was like they started filling up the seats at like mid first quarter. They seemed very relaxed compared to the Raider fans who were at 100 miles per hour.
The get.
They were like old school Jet fans, like screaming and yelling at the Charger fans, like for no reason. Like we were just walking, like Chargers suck, and I'm like, all right, guys, relax. Like
relax. We haven't been kicked off yet.
It's a football game. It means nothing unless you bet like a boatload of money. And
wait, Rico, can we just say that Justin Herbert and my Chargers are better than you thought, and the Raiders are worse than you thought?
I have to say, I will say it. I agree with you on that because I watched the game, watched every single play. I watched the teams beforehand. There was an hour delay before the game, so they were on the field a lot. They got off the field. They came on the field, and just their interaction and the way the teams were, you could just tell the Chargers were more of a, charged up team. They were just more.
Were you impressed with Justin Herbert watching him live? This guy doesn't miss many passes.
I was actually the whole time I kept saying to myself, Monte, can't wait to talk about this. He was playing great. He was, and you know what? On the sideline too, they love him. His team loves him. The fans love him, and he's loving them.
He's so not the typical quarterback. Quiet, doesn't. Like first of all, he's got a cannon of an arm and he's super accurate, but he doesn't showboat. He's just a quiet football player.
He's surprisingly, when I was watching, is more elusive than I thought.
He
I
can
never
run.
really watched him from beginning to end, but it seemed like the Raiders were just having a tough time. Even if they got to him, they weren't getting him. So it was just one of those things.
You don't get clean hits on him.
Yeah, you're not getting. He's got a little of like what Levine had. You're never getting a clean hit on the guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Le'Veon Bell on Pittsburgh back in the day. Well, now on Baltimore. But, in his prime, you never got a clean hit. Every hit was a scrappy drag down. It was never like a shot.
What's so surprising is even Patrick Mahomes said this. He said his first year, everything, he compared it to those old-fashioned record players. He's like, everything seemed like it was being played on 78. He goes, and then there's 45, the normal speed, and then there's 33. And almost like Justin Herbert, the game is always slowed down for him. He's never caught up in the moment. He never panics, and he's got a cannon of an arm. They have so much speed at the wide receiver position. This is a very good team.
Yeah, they played really well, and I think you're right about that. I think that he, there's a lot to say about somebody who doesn't panic. I mean, look at Tom Brady. Have you ever seen him panic back there?
Never.
That's why he's one of the best. He's like one of the best of all time.
I've never seen Aaron Rodgers panic.
Nope. Aaron Rodgers looks like he could sit on a couch back there and throw the ball. He is as cool as ice. But again, like if you go through the list of all quarterbacks who've been there multiple years, Matt Ryan, like there's so much of that game that relies on the quarterback not panicking. That's what I'm seeing a lot with these younger guys. Like Trevor Lawrence has the non-panic button.
Yeah, they're just
but
like
it's I've seen it more when I haven't watched much of him, but when I've seen him, I'm like, oh wow, look, he's panicked. Like he realized.
By the way, Waddle, the wide receiver from Miami, Trevor Lawrence, not Waddle, Tua, and Devontae Smith, when they played together, they lost one game in 2 years. The combined, they're like 3-10 right now in the NFL because they're all 0-4, 1-3, and 1-3.
It's the NFL, What did Myers say? They play in Alabama every week.
So you agree now that Kyle Pitts is a stud, Justin Herbert's a stud.
It's about time. It's week 1. I agree with you on Herbert. He's proven himself. Kyle Pitts is playing. I haven't seen the game, so I don't know how it happened.
He's got
it could have been a missed tackle on
as of like 8 minutes left. He had 25 fantasy points.
Yeah, he's crushing it. I got him on 3 teams. I went all in on him because of you. I pushed all my chips in because I was like, I trust Monte on this.
I went all in on James Robinson from Jacksonville and Harris from Pittsburgh because of you.
Well, listen, who knew Ben's arm was going to be such a...
I knew that. I told you that for years. Okay.
You can tell. Go ahead. Let's move on.
Okay. Let's go. Okay. So Mike from Pittsburgh says, when are we moving off from Big Ben, Rico? Why is he still the starter? He's terrible.
Well, Adam Schiffer said it best. He's like Pittsburgh. He's never, until he decides... They're going to do what they do with old school guys, right? Like if they lose this week and he has another terrible performance, it's going to be an injury. And I think that this week, look at him. He's thrown off his back foot. I think this week, if it comes off of, if we're in the second quarter and he's looking bad and he takes one hit, they're going to pull him. And it's going to say it's from an injury. They're not going to say, hey, we're benching Ben. It's going to be an injury report. He's already hurt as is. He's got a bad rib. His pec hurts. Yep. It'll happen like that. Okay. I think that today he's going to have he won't have James Washington there, but James Washington was never a starter. So he'll have his
as a Steeler fan, right? You're a diehard football fan. You play fantasy football. Sunday is dedicated to football. If the Steelers are having a losing year, do you still watch them if they're 3-9? Or are you like, I'm watching my fantasy guys now? Do you still watch the games when they lose?
Well, I always watch my fantasy guys. Either way, me and Levi say, am I a Steeler fan or am I a fantasy fan? But Josh makes a good point. Ben is out when he says he's out. I watch the games no matter what. I try to do everything. Like to not watch a game, it's got to be like a family event or.
Okay, but even if they're 3-9, you're still going to watch the Steelers.
I don't know. That hasn't happened it hasn't happened in Mike forever.
Yeah,
matter of fact, when they had that bad year 2 years ago. When Roethlisberger was out and they were using Devlin.
They almost made the playoffs. But every week was a great week. It was probably one of my favorite years because if we lost, we were out. And that was like week 5. We were already there. So it was like, every game meant something.
Every game was like a playoff game. Like when the Colts missed that field goal. If they hit that field goal, we're out. The rest of the season is just a squash. But they kept just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. I'm so depressed. I am a little bit. They better win today.
All right, Rico. Are you buying this Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin love affair? I had a guy from Green Bay, Steve, say, Monte, Aaron is going to Pittsburgh. It's a done deal. Are you buying this?
I think that they're good friends and that they've talked and it may have come up, in a conversation with them, like, hey, and but I don't see it happening. I think Pittsburgh does have the pieces, but like what I do,
they have the pieces. They definitely have the pieces.
They have the pieces, but what I do see, which is weirdly, is like I see a look in a quarterback's eyes that I've seen before. So I see Baker Mayfield has this look in his eyes like Jameis Winston did 2 years ago. This look of like, doesn't matter how good I do, I won't be here next year.
Right. Okay.
So I
I've
think
been
that if
saying
Rodgers went to that could be the look like, hey, I'm coming to your division.
Well, yeah, I've been seeing this all year. Aaron Rodgers, when he gets hit, he laughs. He's talking to coaches. Aaron Rodgers went on a talk show this week and said, I love Mike Tomlin. I love the way they do business in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers is the most relaxed I've ever seen him. And if you're going to go to a place, you get some offensive linemen, you have a running back, you got a slew of wide receivers, your defense is going to be good for the next 2 years. I mean, look, this looks like these two are flirting. Like, I mean, come on.
That is, trust me, more than anything, I would love to see that happen. But I think Rodgers, if he's truly chasing a ring, I mean, Pittsburgh.
Why not go to Pittsburgh? They have all the talent there.
They have all the talent, but I mean, the offensive line. I guess so. Next year, your first 2 picks are offensive linemen, right?
100%.
So Pittsburgh, you get Aaron Rodgers. Your first 2 picks are offensive linemen. You pick up another guy out of free agency, and then you scrap together something,
and you're set.
Then you're set. You're right. I guess an offensive line maybe at the end. I guess isn't an easy fix with money and draft picks. Not an easy fix, but an easier fix than finding a pure talent. I mean, Najee he's
going to be good.
He's looking good. He's looking good for a guy who's going against a stacked box every week. They're treating him like he's Derrick Henry. They're stacking that box.
They are.
And they're saying, hey, Ben beat us. Go ahead, Ben. And Ben is just choking.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say right now moving forward. I have Justin Herbert winning the MVP because I think they may win that division. Everyone else has Kyler Murray. Look how small he is. Rico, do you have him winning the MVP?
It's very – when you watch something in person, it's very hard to argue because Herbert looked good. He looked legitimately. I mean, Kyle Murray's looking great, but how long is that? How sustainable is that? Like, if I'm going on the money, I would say that Herbert looks more sustainable, where Kyle Murray looks like he's a hit away from getting. I mean, he's smaller, but he's fast, but he gets hit. Like a quarterback can only run and throw and not get hit for so long. We've seen that for a while. His arm is not as I like Herbert. I don't want to get into all the reasons why I don't think Kyle Murray will finish the season out healthy.
You know this better than most people. Kyler Murray, like Russell Wilson, doesn't get hit because he's a former baseball player. He slides when he's supposed to. It's not like Lamar Jackson gets hit or you see Derek Carr always gets hit hard. Kyler Murray's very elusive.
I haven't watched much of him, but whatever I seem to watch him, it seems like he's a risky play. He seems like a risky runner to me when I watch whenever I've watched him personally. He seems like a riskier runner than like a lot of these other QBs.
Okay, so let's just go on record here. You're all in on Justin Herbert now. It only took you 6. It only took you a year and 5 weeks.
I wouldn't say all in, but he's impressive. I can't lie. The proof is in the pudding.
Okay, fair enough. I'm looking up Kyle Pitts' stats right now, just for you. 9 catches, 119 yards, 1 touchdown.
Hey, listen, buddy. You've been getting hammered the last few weeks. Your ears must ring during the week because every time we've picked up backup tight ends, thinking like, all right, we got to cut him.
Listen,
Levi actually brought up cutting him one day.
No, he did not.
Did you just drop him? And I was
blasphemy.
Like,
Blasphemy.
I said, we're too invested. Thank you, Joe.
Listen, what you got to do is if you're going to drop someone, drop James Robinson because he's been terrible.
Urban Meyer's been terrible.
Yes. Well, he's going to a strip club later.
Hey,
so
we do. I wish I should have sent you a picture of my house. I should have sent it to you.
Oh, you mean send it for the? You mean the Halloween decorations?
Yeah, the Halloween decorations are great.
Okay, Rico, 3-1 Browns at the 3-1 Chargers. The Chargers are -2, like we said. Justin Herbert 7-1 in his last 8 games with 2 different coaches. I wish I had access to the Elias Sports Bureau because I'd like to see what NFL quarterback has went 7-1 with 2 different coaches, 2 different years. I don't think that's ever been done before. It might have been, but I know you don't like the Browns. It's just something in your DNA. But the Browns are a very good team, Rico.
I have to say, after watching the Chargers very closely, I see the Browns offense winning this game. I don't see the Chargers. I see the Chargers defense losing this game and the Browns offense winning this game.
Oh wow! So
I like
taking
the Browns.
Browns?
I like the Browns in this game just because
Wow.
the Raiders pretty much did nothing to justify even having to be one touchdown away from tying the game. They did nothing. They were terrible.
They had a good third quarter. That's it.
Yeah, they had a good half of the
By the
third
way, you
quarter.
went with the Raider fan, right?
Yes.
Was he miserable?
I think it was pretty much, like after you got the vibe right away. It was like after the first quarter, you kind of knew they weren't going to win.
Right.
It was, like you knew. So it was kind of like a nice letdown for the whole crowd because you know what? I think if it would have came down to like a last play, that place would have gotten into a brawl. We saw 2 fights outside.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. Any loser who gets into a fight at a football game, because we're seeing it all over social media, should spend 30 days in jail, $10,000 fine, banned for life. Do you think Eli Manning ever got into a fight because he sees some guy wearing a Sunoco? He sees some guy at Sunoco and he's like, I like Shell better, or I like Exxon better. Like, What are you doing? You're fighting over your team. Get a life, losers.
Yeah. Something you have it's like fighting over like is Corvette or Mustang.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's that insane. Like these guys are fighting, and I was like, the one guy, he literally, I didn't want to tell the story. He must have gotten a fist fight with his friend in the car, where his friend, 60, wow.
Whoa. Why are we shocked? The Jets have no skill position players. They have no running back. I will say it again for those in the back who don't listen. Zach Wilson may go down as the worst pick in the history of the Jets. End of story.
I wouldn't say the worst pick. I mean, the guy's been put,
He's been terrible.
I don't know. Tony
Rico,
Romo.
it's
Tony
the
Romo
NFL.
don't think so.
You're going against Atlanta, whose defense sucks, and you throw for 65 yards?
True.
All right, so you're taking the Browns. Let's move to the Bills 3-1 at the Chiefs. Rico, I'm going to say this again. I said the Atlanta game was the easiest game to pick. This is the easiest game to the pick. Chiefs are going to roll here. The Bills haven't played anyone. Chiefs are going to win this game. End of story.
Let me tell you, the Chiefs are in trouble. I don't like the Chiefs.
Wow.
Now, this might be...
Is this Levi talking?
I think this could be Levi in the back of my head, but I honestly think that the Buffalo Bills, this is their game to say, hey, they know they had a flop to Pittsburgh. They came out the last... How can you even argue? I mean, they've been blowing people out.
They haven't played anyone, Rico. They played Houston.
Now they're going again. Why? Is KC's defense any better than the other teams that they played?
They're better than Houston.
Well, we know Houston. I mean, 40 points. All right, let's say they're half as good. They're going to score 28 points.
Okay,
I like the Bills in this game. I like the Bills a lot in this game. This
is Levi talking. Is he in your ear? Is he in your ear piece right now?
What? Kyle Pitts? What?
So you're not buying the Chiefs despite going to 2 straight Super Bowls.
No, I'm not buying. No, the Chiefs will get to the playoffs and then they'll do what they do there. But I think today I take the Bills.
And what's the score?
I think that
the Chiefs are a 2-point favorite.
Well, I think the Bills are going to score at least 30 to 28 points, and I think that I think it's going to be like a 28-24 game.
Wow. So is Levi torn here because he believes that Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT and he's going against his team?
Well, let me tell you, you want to know how you switch Levi? If you had Patrick Mahomes on his fantasy team going against the Bills, he would be all in on the Chiefs. He would be all in.
I don't know how the Bills lost
fantasy trumps your team always.
The Bills lost to the Steelers. They blew out a terrible Dolphin offensive team. They beat a bad Washington football team, and they beat the Texans. I mean, come on. Anyone could go 3-1 against those guys.
Well, I mean, so arguably, like, who's better? KC's defense or Washington's defense? Yes, Washington's defense has been playing really bad.
On paper, Washington's defense is better, but they've been atrocious.
They've been atrocious.
All right, so you're taking the Bills and you're taking the Browns. Can't believe you're taking those 2 teams. Okay, Mike's like, please don't let Rico pick this game because I'm betting it, but we're doing it. Vegas has this a pick'em game. Teddy, 2 gloves in Denver. Mike is freaking out right now. He doesn't want you to pick this game.
I can't not pick Pittsburgh. I will give you. You want to hear the funny part is? Last night I was doing my fantasy. I was picking my fantasy for FanDuel, and I just started scrolling and like in the money where they fit, and I was like, Giovanni, pick. I was just letting my kid just touch buttons.
How old is he now?
He's 3.
Okay.
Matter of fact,
when,
he has
time out. When
some-
he's 23, he's gonna come. He's gonna be talking to his therapist how his dad made him pick fantasy football guys, and he was scarred from it, and he's gonna hate football the rest of his life.
Here's 2 things. So last night I said Papa's gonna be on is gonna be on with Monte, and he said Monte. I said you want to be on the show, and he said Monte needs puppies. So apparently he thinks that if we have puppies, we'll do better. Which I can't argue with the kid. He's kind of right. If we just had puppies,
no, he's 100% right.
We'd be. There's no way that we don't get a few extra thousand hits.
Right, he's 100% right. Puppies, and I think
this game falls down on it. Like I mean, it's Ben. It falls on Ben's shoulders. Like at home, like if this is the game, the deciding game. Pittsburgh's got all their pieces back. Everybody's back except Sutton. On their defense, everybody's back. So their team is back to week 1, short of James Washington and Cameron Sutton. So now this is like a test of like, where do we stand at home, even though it's a pick 'em, I think, because so many people are taking Denver. And going back to the Giovanni thing, I gave him the defenses, and he kept picking Denver, and I scrolled differently, and he scrolled up and hit Denver again. So I started Denver on my fantasy team.
That's a good pick. You know why? Because Big Ben in the last 7 games against Denver, he's had at least 1 or more interception in every game against Denver. Okay, so who you picking to win and why? You're taking the Steelers, Mike?
I'm taking Pittsburgh because they're at home.
Okay.
And it's a pick 'em.
What's the score?
I think it's going to be a very tight game. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be like 17-14. Pittsburgh kicks a field goal. Boswell comes out at the 4th quarter, but like not at the last second, but one of those defensive stands where they're coming down and Pittsburgh gets the ball and they kneel out the last 3 minutes of the game.
I'm really, really, really surprised that you went against the Chargers with the Browns. If it was in Cleveland, I would say yes.
But no, I think, I mean, Chargers aren't as home field as you think they are.
No, and Cleveland travels well. They do travel well. Okay, Rico, let's get right to it. We're 2-2 in fantasy football. You lost the first 2 weeks. You won last week. Let's see what you got. You got the first pick in the draft, so you got to take a quarterback. Who are you taking?
Taking Mr. Brady.
Tom Brady. Okay. You know that Brady has lost 12 games to Miami. That's double more than any team he's ever. And the Dolphins have 23 straight games with a takeaway. The next best team has 8 games. Just to throw it out.
That's a good stat. I guess you were looking at starting Brady and you statted yourself out of it. Instead of talking yourself out of it, you statted yourself out of it.
I'm taking Dak Prescott because at home, that team against the Giant defense, how come Gio isn't making an appearance today, even when you have his room?
He's we got him in the Sesame Street. That's it. He's I don't know what it is, but Sesame Street is the new nanny.
Okay, here we go, Rico. Fant, Higbee, or Hawkinson for fantasy?
It's hard. That's a great one. I would go Hawkinson.
I would go Hawkinson too.
I'd go
He's
Hawkinson.
The only option there.
Fant, you can't. I mean, Fant. Tight ends do good against Pittsburgh. It's tough. That's a tough call.
So Fant and Hawkinson, you would say. I'd go with Hawkinson.
I literally get a coin. I'm not even kidding. I've done this before and flipped a coin. It's
also,
as good as a guess as any.
Rico, what do you always say? If you're torn between a 50-50, pick the guy you want to watch.
That's right. The game between them two, which game are you watching? Who do you really want to see do well? That's right. You're right. I would pick the game I'm particularly watching.
Okay, Rico, I'm going to win fantasy football this week because I'm taking Derrick Henry. They are going to rush all over Jacksonville.
Well, I'm taking Alvin Kamara, of course,
we had Chris Rosenglue on, and they said this may be his game to really step up. So, Alvin Kamara, I'm going to take Aaron Jones of Green Bay. I think he'll have a huge game against that Cincinnati defense.
I really, since watching him, he did so well. Eckler, I want
I
to
love
take
him as a player.
I love him, but I don't. He loves fantasy football, by the way. He'll
Yeah.
post, "I'm healthy. Start me this week."
Yes,
He'll say
yes,
stuff like that. He's great. But I'm going to go with this is my wild card. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley.
Really?
I think
Against Dallas.
I think the horse has been let out of the stable and he's back.
That's fine. That's fine. Who's your wide receiver?
I'm going to go with Devontae Adams.
It's always.
Always. I can't not. He's just money. He's like free money.
I'm gonna go with my first pick's probably gonna shock you. I'm gonna go with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota because I think they're gonna put up a ton of points against Detroit.
I had Justin Jefferson too, but my coin toss here is between Hopkins or Evans. But I'm just going to take Hopkins. I'm going to go with DeAndre Hopkins just because it sounds so good. Hopkins and Adams.
Yeah, that sounds great. But
that's like how do you lose? You can't lose with those two guys.
Rico, so I'm going to give you a stat, and you tell me who wide receiver this is. 6 catches, 80 yards. 8 catches, 79 yards. 8 catches, 126 yards. A touchdown. 8 catches, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Who is that?
Adam Thielen.
DJ Moore, Carolina.
DJ Moore. Oh my God, you were calling DJ Moore from.
Yeah, I thought him and Robbie Anderson has been not playing well, but I said Sam Darnold and DJ Moore are going to have huge years, so I'm taking DJ Moore. My tight end.
Wow.
Gotta go. My tight end. I gotta go. The weakness of the Bears defense is covering tight ends, so I'm going with Darren Waller as my tight end from the Raiders.
Well, I think since he hasn't had an explosion of a game yet, I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I was going to go with him, but Buffalo's defense has been playing well, so that's why I didn't do that.
They've been playing really well, but like you said, the offense? Now that's the other thing. The offenses haven't been playing anybody special.
Right.
So
Rico, I mean, just on the outside looking in, Dak Prescott at home, Derrick Henry against Jacksonville, Justin Jefferson against Detroit, and DJ Moore against a Philadelphia team that gives up points. My team is stacked.
What are you talking about? Let's go from backwards. Kelce, Hopkins, Adams, Barkley, Kamara, and Brady.
Barkley and Kamara have not been producing.
This is their week. Their week.
All right, Rico. We'll see you next week. Love having you on. Thanks so much. Take care. Great job by Rico. Show me the money, Graziano. I want to thank Daniel Goodwin. I want to thank Chris Rosaglu. I want to thank you guys for being so active in the chat. And we're just going to end real quickly with my extra point here. Listen, this whole thing about Urban Meyer came out and him basically being grinded by a 20-year-old. Whatever you want to do, Urban, that's not my thing. You do what you want. But then it started coming out how Tim Tebow, again, has been blackballed by the NFL. Let me just say one thing to you. Tim Tebow is the very definition of white male privilege. This is not a political statement. Tim Tebow is a terrible football player. He kept getting opportunities. Tim Tebow was one of the worst baseball players in the history of the Mets farm system. He kept getting opportunities. Tim Tebow is not being discriminated against because his religious beliefs. NFL players at the end of the game sit there and pray on the field. College basketball players do this. NBA players do this. Again, every game the NFL, they sit down, whether this is the Chiefs against the Broncos, and they pray at the end of the game. No one is discriminating Tim Tebow because his religious beliefs. He's had every opportunity to produce in the NFL, to produce in Major League Baseball, and he didn't do it, not because of his religious beliefs, because he sucked as a pro athlete. End of story. That's it. No more of discrimination for his religious beliefs, because we see this all the time. Players thanking God, players playing on the field. Stop with that BS nonsense. Tim Tebow, he's living a charmed life for what he did in college. All right. Enjoy the games, everyone. We will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, breaking down the NFL with my co-hosts A. Marie and Brad Ward. You've been watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube. And in the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.
Peace.